Welcome to our channel. A penny for your thoughts, but how about a penny worth thousands of dollars? That's right. Some of the most valuable US pennies have been hiding in plain sight. Stick around as we uncover which pennies could make you a fortune. The 2001 1-cent penny. At first glance, you might think it's just another common coin. It's small, copper-colored, and probably one of the most widely circulated coins in the United States. You've probably seen hundreds, if not thousands, of these pennies throughout your life. And, honestly, when's the last time you really thought about the value of a penny? You probably toss them into a jar, drop them in the tip jar, or leave them on the counter without a second thought. But what if I told you that the 2001 1-cent penny, a coin you probably have lying around somewhere, could actually be worth thousands, even tens of thousands, of dollars? Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? That a tiny, copper coin, one that most people overlook, could be worth more than a stack of bills. But the truth is, that's exactly what makes the world of coin collecting so fascinating. There's always the possibility that a simple penny could turn into a collector's dream. And the 2001 penny is one of those special cases, one where something rare and remarkable happened, all because of a little mistake. Before we dive into why this coin is so valuable, let's take a look at the basics. The 2001 penny, like every penny that came before it, was minted by the US Mint with a simple design. On the obverse, we have the classic image of Abraham Lincoln, created by the sculptor Victor David Brenner, who designed it back in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's centennial birth anniversary. On the reverse side, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which has been in use since 1959. The design is familiar, unchanging, and, for most people, easily forgotten. It's a design that's been around for decades, steady, reliable, and ordinary. Or so it seems, but not all coins are as ordinary as they seem. And within this ordinary penny, hidden among billions of others, is something extraordinary. You see, coin collectors don't just look for coins that have been made perfectly, they look for the ones that were made wrong. A minting error, no matter how small, can change a coin from being worth just 1 cent to something worth thousands. And the 2001 penny is one of the prime examples of this. Let's explore how such a thing could happen. Coin minting is a complex process. Machines press blank pieces of metal, called planchets, with engraved dies to create the coin's design. The machines are precise, with layers of inspection to ensure quality control. But, like any large-scale manufacturing process, sometimes errors occur. In some cases, these errors are subtle. Maybe a coin is struck a little off-center, or the design is faint. In other cases, the errors are much more dramatic, like a penny being struck on the wrong planchet or a coin being stamped twice by the same die, resulting in a double die effect. The 2001 penny, though seemingly ordinary, became famous in the world of coin collecting because of a particular type of error that is highly sought after: the mule. A mule is a coin struck with two dies that weren't intended to be paired together. In the case of the 2001 penny, some of the rarest of these mules were struck with a penny obverse, front side, and a dime reverse, back side. A mule coin is an accident, a mistake in the minting process, and because of this, it is extraordinarily rare. There are only a few of these 2001 mule pennies known to exist, and that rarity makes them incredibly valuable. Picture this: a penny with Abraham Lincoln's face on the front, but on the reverse, instead of the Lincoln Memorial, you have the torch and olive branch of a dime. A rare, mismatched combination that wasn't supposed to happen. It's this kind of error that makes collectors' hearts race, and it's what gives these coins such immense value. But that's not the only error coin collectors are hunting for when it comes to the 2001 penny. There are other types of minting errors that can turn a simple penny into a rare gem. Take the off-center strike error, for instance. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned with the die during the minting process. As a result, part of the design is missing, or the design appears shifted to one side. Depending on the degree of the misalignment, an off-center penny can be worth anywhere from a few dollars to several $100s, sometimes even more. If the error is extreme enough, then there's the double die error. This occurs when the design is struck into the coin more than once, creating a shadowed or doubled image. Imagine seeing the word liberty not once, but twice, clearly visible on your penny. Or seeing Abraham Lincoln's face doubled. The double die effect is a result of misalignment between the die and the coin blank, and it can significantly raise the value of a penny, especially if it's as obvious as the example I just mentioned, and if you're lucky enough to find a penny struck on the wrong planchet. For example, a penny struck on a dime planchet, that coin could be worth thousands. A wrong planchet error happens when the US Mint mistakenly uses a blank piece of metal intended for a different coin. This could result in a penny that is smaller than usual, or even a penny that looks like silver because it was struck on a blank intended for a dime or quarter. All of these errors, the mule, the off-center strikes, the double dies, and the wrong planchets, add up to one thing: rarity. A coin that's been struck incorrectly is not just a mistake, it's a unique artifact, a reminder of the complexity and occasional imperfections of the coin production process. Collectors know that these rare errors can have a significant impact on a coin's value, and that's why they search high and low for them. The hunt for these coins is part of the thrill, the excitement, and the allure of the coin collecting world. Now, you might be wondering, how much can these error coins really be worth? That's the question that keeps collectors up at night, hunting through change jars, flipping through rolls of coins, and scouring estate sales in search of a hidden treasure. The value of a rare 2001 penny, like any coin, depends on the error, its rarity, and its condition. Some of these pennies can be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, especially if they are in pristine, uncirculated condition. But the most valuable ones? The ones with the rarest errors? Those can sell for eye-popping prices, and here's where the magic happens. The highest priced 2001 penny ever sold, the one that broke records, was a rare mule error. This penny, featuring the reverse of a dime instead of the Lincoln Memorial, sold for an astonishing $31,000. How does something so small, so simple, and so often overlooked transform into a small fortune? It's all thanks to that one mistake. That one error in the minting process. The beauty of the coin collecting world is that sometimes the most ordinary things, when they're a little off, are worth more than anyone could have ever imagined. That's the magic of the 2001 penny, a simple coin that, for a select few, became a treasure. Top 2, when you think of a penny, what comes to mind? Maybe it's that small, copper-colored coin that often gets tossed aside or forgotten in the bottom of your pocket or change jar. For most of us, pennies don't seem all that important, just a tiny piece of currency that doesn't seem to hold much value. But what if I told you that there's one specific penny, a 2006 1-cent coin, that could be worth thousands of dollars? Yes, you heard that right. A penny. Worth thousands. But before we get to that jaw-dropping moment, let's take a step back and explore the incredible journey that this seemingly ordinary penny has been on. The 2006 penny, just like other 1-cent coins, was produced by the United States Mint. At first glance, it might look like just another penny, small, copper-plated, and featuring the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln. But this penny, and the series it belongs to, is part of a larger narrative that spans centuries of U.S. history. The story of the 2006 penny begins long before it ever made its way into your pocket. To understand the significance of the 2006 penny, we need to take a look at the history of the 1-cent coin in general. The penny, or 1-cent coin, has been a part of U.S. currency since 1793, making it one of the oldest coins in circulation today. Over the years, the penny has gone through various design changes and adjustments in its composition. However, by 2006, the design had been relatively consistent for several decades. In fact, since 1909, the obverse, front, of the penny has featured the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design created by Victor David Brenner. This iconic image of Lincoln, with his calm expression and distinctive beard, is familiar to anyone who has ever held a penny. The reverse side of the penny, however, saw a major change just a few years before 2006. For most of the 20th century, the reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial, a majestic and iconic image that was created by Frank Gasparro in 1959. But by the mid-2000s, the U.S. Mint wanted to do something special to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's portrait on the penny. They decided to release a series of special reverse designs in 2009, one for each year of Lincoln's life. But the changes didn't stop there. While the 2006 penny still featured the traditional Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, there were subtle differences in the way it was produced. And these differences, while unnoticed by most at the time, would eventually lead to a coin that would become highly valuable in the world of numismatics, the 2006 1-cent penny. So, what exactly makes the 2006 penny different from other pennies? The answer lies in a series of minting errors and unique variations that make some 2006 pennies much rarer than others. You see, while most of the 2006 pennies were struck and distributed into circulation without incident, there were some that were struck with unusual errors or variations. It's these errors and variations that make certain 2006 pennies highly sought after by collectors. One of the most notable errors that collectors look for in the 2006 penny is the double die error. This error happens when a coin is struck twice by the same die, causing the design to appear doubled or blurry. This might sound like a small mistake, but to collectors, it's a huge deal. A double die penny can be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, depending on the severity of the error. In the case of the 2006 penny, some of these double die errors resulted in striking inconsistencies, creating a noticeable doubling of certain letters or numbers on the coin, such as Liberty or In God We Trust. The doubling effect can be subtle, but with the right magnification and keen eye, it's possible to spot these unique coins. Then there's the off-center strike error, another mistake that can make a 2006 penny worth far more than its original value. An off-center strike happens when the coin isn't properly aligned with the die during the minting process. As a result, part of the design is missing or appears off-center. Some off-center pennies can be slightly misaligned, while others are dramatically off-center, sometimes leaving large portions of the coin blank. These coins are highly valued by collectors because no two are alike. Each off-center coin is unique, and some can fetch prices that far exceed their face value. Another interesting variation that emerged with the 2006 penny is the die crack error. A die crack occurs when there's a small crack in the die used to strike the coins. This crack is then transferred onto the coin during the minting process, leaving a line or a series of lines across the surface of the penny. While die cracks are relatively common, they can be more noticeable on certain coins, especially when they are large and run through important design elements like Lincoln's face or the words E pluribus unum. Collectors often seek out these die crack pennies because of their uniqueness and their connection to the minting process, but the real magic happens when these errors and variations are combined with other factors. A 2006 penny with multiple errors, like a double die combined with an off-center strike, or a die crack with an over-polished die, can be a true treasure in the eyes of collectors. And when you find one of these rare combinations in excellent condition, the value of the coin can skyrocket. So, how valuable is the 2006 penny with these rare errors and variations? Well, it's not uncommon for a 2006 penny with a noticeable error to sell for several $100s. However, there's one specific 2006 penny that stands out above the rest. This particular penny, due to its rare and significant error, has recently been sold for an unbelievable price. What makes this coin worth such an incredible amount? The combination of its rarity, unique minting error, and the high demand from collectors who are always on the lookout for rare finds. This coin, in particular, featured a double die error along with an off-center strike, making it one of the most coveted error coins of its time. Top 3, the 2007 1-cent penny. For most people, it's just another coin, small, copper-colored, and often found buried at the bottom of drawers or tossed into coin jars. It's the coin you sometimes forget about, the one that doesn't seem to hold much value. But what if I told you that a seemingly ordinary 2007 penny could be worth thousands of dollars? Yes, thousands. You might be skeptical, thinking that a coin worth just 1 cent couldn't possibly be valuable enough to be worth more than $1 or $2. But in the world of coin collecting, a single coin can transform from mundane to magnificent with the right combination of rarity, errors, and historical significance. Let's take a step back and explore the story behind the 2007 penny. To understand why this particular penny is special, we need to look at the context in which it was produced. The penny itself, a staple in U.S. currency, has been in circulation since 1793. Over the years, the design of the penny has undergone several changes, but it wasn't until the late 20th century that the penny's design became largely static, with a few minor modifications along the way. The most significant design feature of the penny, as most of us know, is the image of Abraham Lincoln. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's centennial birthday, the portrait was designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. This famous design has remained a constant on the front of the penny for over a century. The reverse side of the penny has changed more frequently. Originally, the penny featured a design based on the shield and olive branch, but in 1959, the reverse was changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial design became iconic and remained in use for nearly half a century. However, by the time the 2000s rolled around, the U.S. Mint was looking to honor Lincoln in a more modern way. They wanted to mark the centennial of Lincoln's portrait on the penny with something special. Thus, in 2009, they introduced a series of new reverse designs, each representing a different stage of Lincoln's life. But while these new reverse designs became a collector's item, the 2007 penny was still part of the classic series featuring the Lincoln Memorial. 2007 itself was a year of stability for the penny. The design of the penny was unchanged from previous years, but the minting process and coin production had still evolved in subtle ways. The U.S. Mint was still producing billions of pennies to meet the demands of the nation's economy, but among the thousands and millions of pennies struck in 2007, some began to stand out. These pennies, though unremarkable at first glance, contained small yet significant errors that would make them highly valuable to collectors. The process of creating a coin is one that is designed for precision. The U.S. Mint uses highly specialized machinery to strike pennies with the familiar image of Lincoln on the obverse and the memorial on the reverse. However, like any mass production process, mistakes can and do happen. A slight misalignment of the dies or an error in the planchet, the blank piece of metal before it is struck, can result in a rare coin with a higher value than its face value. So, what kind of errors are we talking about when it comes to the 2007 penny? The most coveted errors in coin collecting are often those that occur during the minting process. One of the most valuable errors that you can find in any coin is the double die error. This happens when a coin is struck more than once by the same die, resulting in a doubling effect in the design. For the 2007 penny, this could mean a noticeable doubling of the inscription, Liberty, or, In God We Trust, or even an image of Lincoln himself appearing doubled. This is an error that collectors look for eagerly because it signifies a mistake made during the minting process, and that rarity makes the coin far more valuable. Another error that can turn a typical penny into a valuable collector's item is the off-center strike. This error happens when the planchet, the blank metal disc used to create the coin, is not properly aligned with the die. When this happens, part of the coin's design is struck off-center, creating a coin that's unique and often considered more valuable. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, these pennies can be worth anywhere from a few dollars to several $100s. For some collectors, a dramatic off-center strike can make the coin even more desirable, as it makes each coin truly one of a kind. But there's one other error that stands out in the world of 2007 pennies, the wrong planchet error. Planchets are the blank metal discs that are pressed into coins by the U.S. Mint's presses. Sometimes, during the minting process, a penny can end up being struck on the wrong planchet, in other words, a blank intended for a different coin, such as a dime or a quarter. This results in a coin that's smaller than a standard penny, or it could even result in a coin with the wrong color. If a penny is struck on a dime planchet, for example, it will appear smaller than usual, and collectors consider these errors highly valuable due to their rarity. These are just a few of the errors that could be found in the 2007 penny. But while these variations are exciting to collectors, there's another factor that increases the value of these coins: their condition. Coins that are found in pristine, uncirculated condition are always worth more than coins that are heavily worn. The 2007 penny, like all coins, goes through a lot of handling once it enters circulation. But the coins that are carefully stored and well preserved are the ones that collectors will pay top dollar for. As you might imagine, the rarer the error and the better the condition of the coin, the higher its value. Some of these rare 2007 penny errors have been known to fetch thousands of dollars at auction. And now, we arrive at the moment you've been waiting for, the big reveal. What's the most valuable 2007 penny out there, and how much could it be worth? Drumroll, please. One particular 2007 penny, featuring a combination of rare minting errors, sold for an astonishing $27,000. The beauty of the 2007 penny lies in its ability to show how something as seemingly insignificant as a penny can carry enormous value when the conditions are right. Whether it's the result of a rare minting error, an unusual variation in its design, or simply the luck of finding a coin in near-perfect condition, the 2007 penny proves that every coin has the potential to be something much more than it seems to. So, next time you come across a 2007 penny, or any penny, for that matter, take a closer look. You never know if you're holding a coin that could turn into a valuable collector's item, one worth thousands of dollars. Top 4. The 2016 1-cent penny, seemingly just another coin that many of us barely notice. Small, copper-colored, and all too easy to overlook as it jingles around in your pocket or clinks in the bottom of your purse. But what if I told you this penny, which you might think of as inconsequential, could be much more than its face value? What if I told you that there's a rare breed of 2016 pennies out there that could actually make you thousands of dollars richer? It sounds impossible, right? After all, it's just a penny. But in the world of coin collecting, even the most ordinary seeming coin can be a treasure. To understand why the 2016 penny is so special, we need to take a step back and look at the history of the US 1-cent coin. The penny, as we know it, has been in circulation since 1793, and over the centuries, it has undergone numerous changes in both design and composition. The 2016 penny, however, looked very much like its predecessors. On the obverse, the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln remained unchanged, a portrait created by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial was still depicted, a design introduced in 1959 by Frank Gasparo to honor Lincoln's legacy. In 2016, the penny was still part of the classic series of coins, with no significant design changes, but it was a year that would later capture the attention of coin collectors for an entirely different reason. Despite the familiarity of the design, the real story of the 2016 penny comes not from its appearance, but from the errors that occurred during its minting. You see, the US Mint produces billions of pennies every year, and though the process is designed to be precise, mistakes can and do happen. Sometimes these errors are so small that you wouldn't notice them unless you were looking closely. But for coin collectors, even the slightest mistake can turn a typical penny into something rare and highly valuable. It's these little mistakes, often referred to as minting errors, that give certain 2016 pennies their extraordinary worth. One of the most exciting types of errors to find on any coin, including the 2016 penny, is the double die error. The double die error occurs when a coin is struck by the same die more than once, causing the design to appear doubled. This error often affects the inscription on the coin, such as the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." Sometimes the doubling is so subtle that it's nearly impossible to notice with the naked eye, but other times it's much more dramatic, making the lettering appear blurry or doubled. For collectors, this is a highly desirable error because it's both rare and visually distinctive. A penny with a noticeable double die error can fetch a premium, especially if the doubling is clear and prominent. Another notable error that collectors love to find is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet, the blank metal disc used to mint the coin, is not aligned properly during the minting process. As a result, the design is struck off-center, creating a coin that looks slightly lopsided. Sometimes, the misalignment is minor, with just a slight shift in the design. Other times, the coin can be dramatically off-center, with a portion of the coin left blank or the design cut off entirely. These off-center strikes are always in demand among collectors because no two are ever the same, making each coin unique. An off-center 2016 penny, especially one with a large portion of the design missing, is an exciting find, and it can be worth much more than its face value. Then, there's the clipped planchet error. This happens when the metal planchet is improperly cut before being struck. The result is a coin that has a jagged edge, sometimes with a portion of the design missing or distorted. While clipped planchets are relatively rare, they are highly prized by collectors because of their unusual appearance. These pennies often look like they've been through some sort of accident, and for some collectors, that's part of the charm. The rarer and more extreme the clipping, the more valuable the coin becomes. Finally, there's the wrong planchet error, which happens when a penny is struck on the wrong type of planchet. In most cases, the US Mint uses different planchets for different coins. Dimes, quarters, and pennies all require their own specific planchets. But sometimes, during the minting process, a penny might be struck on a planchet intended for a different coin, like a dime or a quarter. This can result in a coin that is smaller or larger than usual, or one that is made of a different metal. For example, a 2016 penny struck on a dime planchet might be smaller than a standard penny, and it might even be made from a different metal composition. These errors are incredibly rare and highly collectible. When it comes to determining the value of these error coins, a few factors come into play. First, the rarity of the error itself is key. The more unusual or dramatic the mistake, the more valuable the coin. Second, the condition of the coin is extremely important. A well-preserved coin, one that hasn't been worn down or damaged by years of circulation, will always be worth more than a coin that's been battered by time. Finally, demand plays a huge role in the value of any coin. If there's a high demand for a specific error or variation, collectors will be willing to pay a premium to get their hands on it. And now, after all the detailed examination of these rare errors, let's come to the exciting part of the story, the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much could a 2016 penny, featuring one of these rare errors, actually be worth? One 2016 penny, featuring a rare combination of minting errors, recently sold for an astonishing $19,000. It's a remarkable reminder of how small mistakes can sometimes lead to great treasures. While most of the 2016 pennies out there are worth only their face value, a rare error coin like this one shows just how valuable these seemingly insignificant coins can be when the right conditions come into play. So, the next time you find yourself holding a 2016 penny, remember to take a closer look. Who knows? That ordinary coin might just be the rare find of a lifetime. Top 5. In 2022, the US Mint produced billions of pennies, just like it does every year, but what made this particular year's coin collection stand out among the rest? What if I told you that some of those seemingly ordinary 2022 pennies could be worth a lot more than just 1 cent? We're talking thousands of dollars for a coin you might have simply tossed into a jar or even overlooked in your pocket. You'd probably think it sounds too good to be true, right? Well, here's the twist, it's all about the minting process. Sometimes, things go wrong, and those errors can make a penny extraordinarily valuable. So, let's dive into the fascinating world of coin collecting, starting with the 2022 1-cent penny. Like most of its predecessors, this penny features Abraham Lincoln's iconic portrait on the obverse side and the Union shield on the reverse. The shield, introduced in 2010, symbolized the unity of the United States, and for many years now, it's adorned the backs of 1-cent coins. It might seem like the 2022 penny is just another year in the endless stream of everyday change. However, what sets it apart for collectors are the little imperfections that happen during its minting, imperfections that have turned this common coin into a potentially rare treasure. While most of the 2022 pennies in circulation are in perfect condition, there are certain instances where the US Mint's machinery didn't quite work as expected, leading to errors. Coin collecting is a hobby that thrives on these mistakes, as errors can create coins that are unique, unusual, and often worth far more than their face value. And some 2022 pennies, because of those minting errors, have become highly sought after in the numismatic world. One of the most notable errors that can be found in 2022 pennies is the double die error. A double die error occurs when a coin is struck by the same die multiple times. The result? A design that appears doubled or blurry, often on the inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." The double die error can be hard to spot unless you know exactly what to look for. Sometimes the doubling is subtle, but in other cases, it's dramatically noticeable, making the lettering appear twice. These types of errors are coveted by collectors, as they are relatively rare and often considered to be the holy grail of penny hunting. Imagine finding a penny with doubled lettering. It's an exciting discovery that can make your heart race and your wallet much fuller. Then there's the off-center strike. This error happens when the coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, causing the design to be imprinted off-center. In some cases, it's just a slight misalignment, leaving a small portion of the coin blank, but in other cases, the misalignment is much more dramatic. A large off-center strike, where the design appears lopsided or even incomplete, can make a coin stand out. These misaligned coins are highly prized by collectors because they're unique and one of a kind. No two off-center strikes are exactly the same, making each one special in its own way. A penny with a significant off-center strike can be worth much more than its regular counterpart, depending on how far off-center it is. Another intriguing error found in some 2022 pennies is the clipped planchet error. This happens when a piece of the metal planchet, the blank disc of metal that gets struck to make the coin, is missing during production. The result is a penny with a jagged or uneven edge, and in some cases, part of the coin's design may be missing. These clipped planchets are rare and unique, and their odd appearance makes them highly sought after by collectors. Whether the clip is small or large, a clipped planchet error can drastically increase the value of a penny, especially if the coin has been well preserved. Then, there's the wrong planchet error. While this one is incredibly rare, it does occasionally happen. This error occurs when a penny is struck on a planchet that was intended for another denomination, like a dime or a quarter. The result? A coin that's made of a different metal or has a different size than expected. For example, a 2022 penny struck on a dime planchet would be smaller than a regular penny and could be made of a different alloy. These types of mistakes are considered to be one of the most interesting errors to find because they're so unusual. It's the perfect example of how a small mistake in the minting process can lead to a coin that is completely out of the ordinary. Now, let's talk about what makes these errors so valuable. When it comes to coins, value is determined by several factors. Rarity, condition, and demand all play a role in how much a coin can be worth. A penny with a rare error, like a double die or off-center strike, is automatically much more valuable than a penny in perfect condition with no errors. The rarer the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. The condition of the coin is also critical. Coins that are in excellent condition, or even better, uncirculated, will always fetch a higher price. Finally, the demand from collectors is a huge factor. If there's a lot of interest in a particular error coin, its price will rise accordingly. While most of the 2022 pennies out there are worth just 1 cent, those with minting errors can be worth far more. A 2022 penny with a noticeable double die error could easily fetch hundreds of dollars at auction. More extreme errors, like a dramatic off-center strike or a clipped planchet, can also see their value rise significantly. But there's one particular 2022 penny, a rare gem that stands out from the rest, that made headlines when it sold for an incredible amount. It's hard to believe, isn't it? A penny, which you might normally ignore or throw away without thinking twice, could be worth that much money. But in the world of coin collecting, rare errors like these make coins incredibly valuable. So, the next time you find yourself holding a 2022 penny, take a closer look. It might just be worth more than you think. Who knows? That little penny in your pocket might turn out to be the next big find in the world of coin collecting. Keep your eyes peeled, and you might just strike it rich with a 2022 penny that could change your financial future.